This is the Matchday Roundup. Welcome back to the Powered by Football podcast, your favourite Power Chair football podcast hosted by Jackson Taylor. On today's episode, we cover the matches between St George FC and Sydney FC, as well as the games between Hills United and the Western Sydney Wanderers. This week, our post-match interview was with Mitchell Albert. Without further ado, let's begin. The reserve grade match between St George FC and Sydney FC began with instant pressure from St George. They forced an early goal kick, which the Sydney FC defence struggled to clear as they could not transition into attacks of their own. Rather, with each goal kick it became more and more apparent that Mitchell Albert was hungry, playing against his former side. On the fourth goal kick in a row, he forced the Sydney defence into putting the ball into their own goal, sending St George 1-0 up within 2 minutes. This goal ignited a fire in the bellies of both teams, it seemed, as both teams had their fair share of attacks in the first half. However, none of them were able to turn that hunger into goals, as the game was 1-0 at half-time. St George continued their press throughout the opening of the second half, which paid off when Jake Vidakovic slotted home a goal from the sideline, assisted by Mitch Albert. Not long after that, it appeared that St George had gone 3-0 up. However, the indirect free kick, which saw the ball roll into the goal, did not make contact, thus keeping the score at 2-0. Not long after this, Harry Simmons dribbled around the St George defence to give hope to the Sky Blues. This goal began a flurry of attacks from Sydney FC to try and claw a result back. They took free kick after free kick, however they were all dealt with by the St George defence. Sydney could not take advantage of these attacks, as the game ended 2-1 to St George. Whilst I did speak to Mitch regarding his performance in this match, I will play the audio after I recap the Premier League match as we discuss his performance in both games. The Premier League match between St George FC and Sydney FC opened with some pressure in the opening minutes for the Sky Blues. However, it was St George who would score first, with Jake Vidakovic scoring an almost identical goal to his one in the reserve grade, including the same player to assist the goal in Mitch Albert in the 4th minute. While Sydney threw some attacks briefly after, only a few minutes passed before a strong dribble from Jake Vidakovic meant he forced Chris Suffield into giving away an own goal, sending St George 2-0 up. The youthful Sydney side showed passion, forcing Abdullah Karim into giving away a penalty just 2 minutes after the own goal. However, Fletcher Ball's penalty was saved by Karim to keep Sydney's tally at 0. Despite this setback, Sydney continued with their attacks, with the return of Joshua Ryan playing as the Sydney goalkeeper, who was in a quite advanced spot for his position. This showed a sense of urgency amongst both Ryan and the team at large, as they fought for a result. These attacks were proving to be almost enough to get a goal, as one sequence after a corner forced Abdullah Karim to somehow scramble the ball off the line from a strong shot from Sydney, denying them any hope before the break as the first half ended 2-0 in favour of St George. Sydney applied some pressure upon the beginning of the second half, however this pressure was dampened by Canberra up-and-coming player Brandon Stroud, who creatively nudged the ball around a defender in transition, his ball travelling over half the court to roll into an open goal created by Sydney's high line to all but conclude this tie. Not long after, Sydney had obtained a free kick in a dangerous position. Whilst they were temporarily cheerful due to a goal, it was disallowed due to unfair contact from before the free kick was taken. Despite both sides attempting to get a goal, the result ended 3-0 to St George, granting Sydney FC's first loss in the Premier League this season. As previously mentioned, I spoke to Mitch Albert regarding his performance in both competitions for St George. Here's the clip.
Mitchell Albert, 16 years old, St George.
Well, firstly, Mitch, I want to talk about both games, as you played really well in both Reserves and Premier League. What are your initial thoughts after the Reserve League game?
I reckon they played pretty good. They need to train a bit more, get better because they're a new team.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's your first win, must feel good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And then quickly transitioning over to the Premier League match, what are your thoughts after winning that game, 3-0?
I'm pretty happy. We were hoping we'd win this one because of my old club.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So how Where do you think you go from here? Do you just keep more wins, hopefully, yeah?
Yeah, hopefully
And what do you do to make sure that happens?
we try to do training every Thursday.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you think you need to focus on in training most?
I reckon our passing and like our triangle.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So, going back to the reserve grade game now, were you at all nervous when Sydney scored their goal, or was the result never in doubt?
I reckon the result was never in doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, they did sneak it in. I think you guys held off really well
Yeah.
towards the end there.
I was a bit nervous, yeah.
Yeah. Mate, you can see the any goal can make you nervous like that. 2-0 is the most dangerous lead in football. And just a question for, in general, being at St George, how's it been learning under Abs?
It's been really good. He's been really helpful, and I hope he can teach me more.
Yeah. Sorry, impromptu question here, but whatever. What's the most important thing that Abs has taught you since joining?
Just like the formation, where to be.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we ask the same question to every interview we do at the end. So, Mitch, I want you to give me a prediction, either for yourself or for St George as a whole. And at the end of the season, we're going to look at all of the predictions and see what was true, what didn't come true. Go ahead.
I predict. I don't think we're going to win this season.
Yep.
I think we'll come third.
Third?
Season.
How many wins do you reckon you're going to get? There's 10 games left, or 9 games left.
I'm hoping we at least get 5 or 6 more wins.
5 or 6 more wins.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, at the end of the season, I'll look at that. Thank you for being with me, Mitch.
Yeah, no problem.
The reserve grade match between Hills United and the Western Sydney Wanderers kicked into gear quickly, with Jesse Eze forcing a corner for the Wanderers in the opening seconds of the game. It surprised many, including the Hills defence, when, rather than Eze being in attack, who plays as a natural winger, dropped back into the goalkeeping position, letting Wanderers reserve goalkeeper, empowered by football host Jackson Taylor, temporarily taking his role. The surprise created from this tactical decision allowed Taylor to squeeze the ball between the defence on the corner, thanks to a Jonathan Reyes assist, to send the Red and Black 1-0 up within the first minute of the game. After this goal, by yours truly, the game appeared to open up. Both sides were having attacking threats. However, the game had appeared to focus more on strong defence, as no matter how many attacks were had for either side, the result had stagnated. With the result being 1-0 at half-time, both teams looked to make their dent on the result. As play resumed, Wanderers were the first to prove this desire, as 2 back-to-back chances were somehow kept out of the Hills' goal. Hills held their own, having chances being ever so close to becoming a goal, yet not fully going their way. Despite both teams fighting hard to either secure or gain a result, nothing would change following the first-minute goal, as the game ended 1-0 to the Wanderers. The Premier League match between Hills United and the Western Sydney Wanderers began with the Wanderers looking to prove themselves after 2 back-to-back losses to start their Premier League season. The Hills had struggled with their form too, losing their previous game to Sydney FC. With both teams desperate for a result in such a short season, it was no surprise to see both sides fighting hard. In the 7th minute, this passion was proven when Hills forward Samir Ashani jumped to a Wanderers goal kick, scoring an easy goal to send the Hills 1-0 up. The Wanderers were not demoralised by this mistake and kept pushing through the first half, having multiple chances. However, were being broken down both by many 2-on-1 infringements and on a strong Hills defence. As the half-time whistle blew, it was apparent that something needed to change in order for the Wanderers to get their first point of the season. The only thing that had changed in the second half was that both sides were giving away a high amount of 2-on-1s. After many chances for the Wanderers from said resulting 2-on-1 free kicks, it was from open play that Jonathan Reyes assisted Steve Webb to use the front of his guard to poke in a long-range goal from outside of the box in the 26th minute. After this goal, however, the tide shifted to the Hills having a majority of the chances. Goalkeeper Andy Waite was kept busy, making multiple saves after his team had scored. However, in a moment of lost focus and lost communication, the defense of Waite and Keat was snuck through as a sideline hit from Jacob Cross was handled with well by Ashani for his second of the game, scoring in the 36th minute. Whilst the Wanderers would have chances after this goal, they were not clinical enough, and the result matched its most common event, with a game of 2-on-1s ending 2-1. You can get involved in power chair football here in New South Wales as an athlete, coach, referee, or volunteer by visiting the NSW PFA website linked below. Our season takes place in Glenwood at the Valentine Sports Park from the 24th of February 2024 to the 6th of July 2024 every Saturday. Contact info@nswpfa.org.au for more information. Just a quick note that the views of this podcast are mine and mine alone. The opinions and thoughts expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the NSW PFA. If you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can follow us at Powered by Football Pod on Instagram, join our Facebook group, Powered by Football Podcast, or follow our Twitter account, Powered by Pod. Thanks for listening.